Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another one of our weekly Gleipnir discussion videos. Today we're going to be talking all about Episode 7, Metamorphosis. But before we get into that, I do, as always, want to give a big thank you to those of you who shared last week's video over on Twitter. So a big thank you to NimadXI, Matt87Eagle, Bubba Lubber, Blue Rose Enigma, and Sirius9752. Thank you all so much for sharing last week's Gleipnir video over on Twitter, and if you too would like to have your name shouted out in next week's Gleipnir video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet, and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout out the first 5 of you in next week's video. So with all that said, we're going to jump into today's video, so like, comment, subscribe, what the hell? Oh, Canada. That was, wow, that was a trippy episode. Trying really hard not to swear in the first minute of this video, or maybe we're past the first minute. I don't know. All I know is that this episode was, wow. This was a weird one. There's two big elements at play, two big things that we can discuss in regards to this week's episode. There is Koyanagi and Elena, their dynamic, as well as just Elena in general. Lots of stuff going on with Elena this week. And we also, of course, have the search for the wallet, which ultimately ends up leading to some of the strangest bits of the episode. But I'm going to save that. We're going to table that for just a sec. We're going to try to start in a more sane place, and with Gleipnir, sane is hard to come by, but we're going to do our best. And we're going to start by talking a little bit about Koyanagi and Elena. Now, if you've forgotten who Koyanagi is, don't worry, I totally forgot her name last week, and I almost did again this week. I had to look it up. But yes, her name is Koyanagi. She's the one in charge of this little group that Shuichi and Claire have stumbled across. And Koyanagi apparently, like, after the whole incident that happened at her previous school, which ultimately led to her getting her crazy ability with the necklace thing, she had switched schools, and when she did that, she actually ran into Elena. So they were actually classmates, and from what I can gather, they were friends as well. Like, Elena actually reached out a hand to Koyanagi to try to, I don't know, just give her some semblance of friendship, some sense of camaraderie. And this whole episode really kind of throws a monkey wrench into the clockwork setup that I had for Elena, like the basics of her character that I assumed I knew, but now I feel like I don't know anything. I mean, regularly I feel like I don't know anything, especially when it comes to this channel, but like in general. I mean, I thought I knew stuff about Gleipnir. Turns out I don't know nothing. But yeah, this history that Koyanagi has with Elena, it gave her a sense of pause when Claire had explained the whole story of Elena, how she killed their parents, how she's like this crazy monster thing now, they gotta track her down, all this stuff. And Koyanagi, like, to her credit, she's not dismissing Claire out of hand, and she's not just believing Claire right away. She basically just says, like, listen, I kind of have my doubts about what you just said because that doesn't sound anywhere close to the Elena that I know. And I really dig that. I like this idea that Koyanagi's like sort of, she's playing it by ear. She's not totally on Claire's side. She's not totally on Elena's side. But Elena does, or rather has done enough for Koyanagi where she's willing to maybe like hear her out. Like, she wants to help Claire because Claire did volunteer and she is part of the group now. So she does want to help her, but at the same time you can tell there's some slight hesitance on Koyanagi's end. And I think that makes her character a little bit more interesting, makes her a little bit more fun. I want to see her actually reunite with Elena and see how that maybe changes things. And honestly, judging by some later actions that we see towards the end of the episode, I have to wonder if maybe Koyanagi's onto something. And maybe Claire is either misremembering or maybe had her memories altered. And I only bring that up because later on in the episode, during a confrontation between Shuichi and Elena, as well as Yoshioka and Subaru, who we'll get into in a sec, but yeah, in a confrontation between these four characters, Yoshioka sees the memories of Elena through Shuichi's eyes, but she sees stuff that, like, we've never seen before. Shuichi actually hanging out with Elena and like make like the two of them like genuinely like laughing and having a good time, which I don't remember happening at all. So whether or not this means that Shuichi is lying or Shuichi is choosing to ignore some happy memories of Elena, I don't know. I don't, or maybe like that's why I'm sort of being led to assume that is there like some sort of like mind wipe, some memory whammy going on here, and Shuichi's memories and maybe even Claire's memories have been screwed with, and Elena, maybe Elena is actually like the Itachi of the group. Like you think she's doing some nefarious stuff, but actually, in actuality, she's like a good guy, and she's actually been trying to help instead of hurt, but she's doing it from the dark side. I don't know. Like I'm just saying, there was elements at play in this week's episode that really put me on my heels and made me shift a little bit of my perception of Elena, and especially the alien's dream at the end. We get to see a little bit more of this meeting between Elena and the alien that we've seen before, but we see a little bit more of it. Sort of like, it's very Kingdom Heartsy, where it's you get the same scene, but you see a little bit of more from the beginning and the end of said scene. Like we get to know a little bit more about what's going on there. And the alien himself seems very like surprised by the fact that he's dreaming now. A lot of intrigue around the Elena character, for sure. But I did mention Subaru earlier, and I suppose it's time to talk about the insanity in this week's episode, and that starts with this kid, Subaru. And I just want to point out that this man is named Subaru, and his ability seems to give him some weird, almost like shadowy hands with a purple aura around them. They're unseen hands. These are the witch's hands. Like this is Subaru just one big ReZero reference? Because it really feels like it. I even said on Twitter, like, this new season of ReZero is really weird. Like, I swear to you, that felt like an overt, like, we like ReZero reference, either from the show or the original mangaka. I have to assume it's a show thing, because I assume in the manga they don't, it's a manga, so there's no color. Because, like, they purposely made this look an awful lot like the hands from ReZero. So I was sort of surprised by that. In a good way, mind you. I'm not saying, like, oh, how dare they rip them off. I'm like, no, that was fun. Do more of that. In fact, they do later on in the episode. There is another big reference. But, yeah, Yoshioka. Okay, I like, or rather, I was going to say I liked past tense. I still do like this character. But Yoshioka, like, being startled to discover that Shuichi has killed people and is like, you wouldn't do that, right? Like, you definitely wouldn't. You can see this man's memories. You know the situation he was in. Are you dense? Like, Yoshioka, I like you, but that's a dumb thing to say in the middle of a life or death situation. Of course he had to kill that girl. She was gonna kill them. Like that girl, like, I do feel bad for that girl because she got, right? Like, that girl got, like, destroyed. But at the same time, she wouldn't have stopped. So it had to be done. Like, I do understand Yoshioka's fear because she clearly hasn't been in the same types of situations as Shuichi, and it's meant to show, like, the difference in accepting the darker nature of this story that like between the two of them, where Shuichi's more willing to accept it since he's seen a lot of the darker side of things, whereas Yoshioka is still very much like a fresh-faced person in all of this. Like, she's totally new to the idea of, like, a life and death fight, where Shuichi is slowly becoming a hardened battler of sorts. And I will say Shuichi is definitely playing with fire in this week's episode. He's almost a little too reckless, and I wonder if maybe that's Yoshioka's innocence affecting him in some way. I suppose that's a discussion for the comments, but yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting, his new reckless streak, where he's like, I gotta find this wallet. And now that I think about it, even after confronting Subaru, I don't think they get the wallet back. So a lot of this, like they tried their best, but I don't think they get the wallet back, so I guess they failed. And then we get the second reference when we get the big fight with Subaru, who basically has this freaky looking gigantic stand that's like a fusion of a guy and a girl. I don't even know if I could show it, because this scene's kind of gory. Because basically there's this giant freaky stand looking thing, and it reaches out and grabs Shuichi, and squishes, like basically they, you know how you make a fire with your hands, where you rub your hands together with like a stick and you try to start fire? Well, the stand does that, but to Shuichi and Yoshioka. And it's brutal. I don't think I can show it, because YouTube guidelines says like you gotta kind of keep violence to a minimum, and I don't feel like watching this video get demonetized. So I don't think I can show it, but if it, like, obviously you're watching this video so you've seen the episode and you probably just want my opinion on it, and my opinion on it is, ooh, nasty. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. And the fact that we get the second reference here, I should have seen this coming when I thought about the fact that it's like, oh, she's like inside of him and they're being squished right now. It was only going to be one of two references. It was either going to be Goku getting squished by Great Ape Vegeta, or it was going to be a big old Akira reference. And it is a straight up reference to Akira, and it is the Kaoru, where Kaoru is like being squished inside of Tetsuro. It's almost one-to-one that. And much like the Subaru reference, totally okay with it. I don't know if it was a definite reference, but it sure as hell felt like it. It almost felt like one-to-one. And it was, like I said, nasty, but hell of a reference, and it does give us the new form, who I will be referring to as Shuioka. And this thing is freaky, and this fight is dope! This, to me, was on par with the episode 2 fight with the track star. Like, this was wild. In fact, it might even be better just because you get these, like, crazy shots of Shuioka, like, running up the stand-looking thing's arm and just, like doing their best, and they're flipping all over the place, and it's crazy. You can tell whoever worked on episode 2, whichever animators were helping out there, definitely came back here. And this was strong. Like, this fight was great, and as well as it had to be, because, like, once this weird new form shows up, this felt like it needed something grand, and this fight was definitely grand. This was absolutely just something else. Like, this fight is crazy cool. Even the dialogue in this fight is interesting, because it's like, am I Shuichi? Am I Yoshioka? I don't know anymore. All I know is I'm something else. And they're just like, this is my rage. Like, it felt like a Rhea Ripley, like, this is my brutality. Like, it just felt insane. Like, it felt properly, like, you feel how angry this weird amalgamation of Shuichi and Yoshioka is. Like, this anger, and the design, you guys, it's so cool looking. I love it. I probably made it the thumbnail. It's just that design is spectacular. Like, kudos. I don't know if I give kudos to the character designer, or if there might be like a monster designer. I'm not super sure. Regardless, Takahiro Kishida, holy crap, that monster design. If it was in fact Kishida who made this design, it's spectacular. Oh my god, this thing is so cool looking. With that said, everybody, I'm going to wrap up my thoughts here. Question of the day today: after that insane fight that we get this week, what has been your favorite fight in the show so far? Let me know in the comments below. And with that said, we've reached the end of the video, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, then don't forget to boop the up snoot and share if you care. And if you want to see me rambling even more, then feel free to follow me on Twitter or join our good folks Discord, both of which are linked in the doobly-doo. Lastly, if you're feeling generous, consider checking out our Patreon page to help support this channel. Speaking of which, I'd like to give a big thank you to our lovely patrons, such as Izevi, Alex, Andrew W., Branson C., Calvin A., Crowbar of Irony, Daniel G., Deep Not That Deep, Digger the Fox, Dominic G., Emily, Ionos, Urza, Ginkotaku, Godzilla Fan, No For Nothing, Maria T., Marshall B., Mater, Mirth Mouser, Nymad, Cell, Shadow Creative, Stephen G., The Suavest Orange, Tristan G., and Verdon. Thank you all so much for your continued support over on Patreon, and once again, thank you for checking out today's video. Hope you guys have a lovely day, and until next time, you stay classy, AnyTube, and wash your dang hands.